In 1995, the well-known cartoon and comic book character Casper the Friendly Ghost got the chance to star in a live-action feature film. Directed by Brad Silberling, this film has become a nostalgic favorite for plenty of people, and it was also quite an important film in the evolution of special effects. I have fond memories of watching it a good number of times on VHS, and decades later, it's still a movie I quite enjoy. Casper was executive produced by Steven Spielberg, and he did not merely stamp his name on the movie. He was actually quite involved with the production, personally picking Silberling to direct it after being impressed with his television work. He also selected Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver to write the screenplay, having enjoyed their scripts on Tiny Toon Adventures and Animaniacs. Some other Spielberg collaborators were brought in to work on Casper and help bring it to life. His longtime editor, Michael Kahn, edited the film, Dennis Muren supervised the CG effects like he has done on a number of Spielberg projects, most notably Jurassic Park, and Dean Cundey, the DP on Jurassic Park and Hook, was the cinematographer on Casper. Cundey has also worked a lot with Robert Zemeckis and shot movies like Apollo 13 and The Parent Trap, so if you're looking for your movie to have seamless special effects, he's one of the people to hire. Spielberg also visited the set a lot, and you do see some of his fingerprints on the movie while still very much belonging to Silberling. Onto the movie itself, the main focus is of course on Casper, as well as the friendship he strikes up with a girl named Kat. If this did not feel believable, the film would have probably fallen apart completely, but it does generally look like Christina Ricci has become friends with this ghost. One of the smartest decisions the movie makes is not having it take long for Kat to go from being skeptical about ghosts to meeting Casper and realizing, oh, they do exist. Another movie might decide to stretch out her being mopey about her father being obsessed with finding ghosts, but Casper does not do that. They do a couple of cute gags of Casper trying to figure out how to reveal himself to her, and then he just does. Ricci's performance is very good, successfully acting off basically nothing. There's a charm to their interactions, and it's nice seeing their friendship grow as Kat learns more about him. That's the other main thing I appreciate about Casper. While this is primarily a family comedy, the filmmakers found a way to address the topic of death in a respectful manner. The scene where Casper reveals how he died is quite heartbreaking, which is a credit to so much of the creative talent involved. Not only the fact that he died apparently from pneumonia, but how he continued to keep his father company until he couldn't. Something often talked about with ghosts in this movie is that they have unfinished business, and Casper's unfinished business seemed to involve always being there for his father, which he could not fulfill anymore after he passed away years ago alone in an asylum. And then there's Kat's father, Dr. James Harvey, who's of course named after Harvey Comics, the longtime rights holders of Casper. His principal goal throughout the film is trying to get in contact with his deceased wife, and through this, the movie addresses the topic of what it means to lose a loved one and the memory we continue to have of them. When Dr. Harvey finally gets closure at the end of the movie, when his wife Amelia reappears to him, it's just a sweet and touching scene. I really like the atmosphere Brad Silberling brought to the movie too, with the production team giving Whipstaff Manor that appropriate haunted house look. The many different rooms, like the library and kitchen and hidden places, have a lot of character to them, and they fit the ghosts who float through the walls and down the winding stairs. I think the score by James Horner is one of his best, being playful during the comical parts and beautifully haunting during the sad and bittersweet scenes. The track One Last Wish is what I most associate with the film, with its beautiful melody that matches Casper's sadness and wish to just make some friends. Horner also does a good job of incorporating Casper's classic theme song, giving it a nice orchestral update. Regarding the other characters, the main villains are Kerrigan and her attorney Dibbs. Kathy Moriarty plays her as over-the-top as possible as she plots and schemes, and Eric Idle provides a bit of humor as Dibbs, although if this movie was made today, they would have probably gotten John Oliver to play this role. The ghostly trio is probably where we most see Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver's sensibilities. Oliver did create the Good Feathers after all, so she knows a thing about writing for comical trios. There are some funny lines here and there, although I find the most interesting aspect comes from them eventually growing to like and befriend Dr. Harvey. I do think there's one unusual subplot with this girl named Amber who immediately develops a dislike for Kat, mostly because the other students at the school decide to have a Halloween party at the manor. Her and a boy try to pull a prank at the party, but it's a storyline that does not really lead anywhere significant. She has maybe 3 minutes of screen time, and you could probably cut her subplot and not lose anything. The movie includes a few cameos from well-known people, with the most notable being Dan Aykroyd reprising his role as Ray from Ghostbusters. So yes, Casper is technically part of the Ghostbusters universe. People have questioned how a Ghostbuster cannot catch the ghostly trio, but he's there alone. Why? This was probably after the team had gone their separate ways and Ray was trying to go about the business by himself with little luck. Of course, one of the most standout things about the movie is the visual effects. Industrial Light and Magic had already brought water aliens, shape-shifting metallic androids, and dinosaurs to life using computer-generated imagery, so Ghost felt like the next natural step in seeing what they could accomplish with the technology. In fact, Casper holds the distinction of being the first feature film to star a computer-generated lead character, beating Toy Story by 6 months. Dennis Muren and his team did a terrific job, especially since they also had to make the ghosts look somewhat translucent and contort themselves in all kinds of shapes when need be. They smartly decided to make the ghosts look cartoony, which helped make Casper that much more endearing and the ghostly trio that right amount of goofy. They even successfully translated Kathy Moriarty and Bill Pullman into ghost form, and while their features are comically exaggerated, they are still recognizable. Someone who was pivotal to aiding the visual effects artists and giving character to these ghosts was Fievel Goes West co-director Phil Nibbling. He was credited as the animation director on Casper and drew the rough animatics of the ghosts on the scenes to then guide the effects team. I also spotted a few other notable names when recently rewatching the movie. Peter Ramsey, the director of Rise of the Guardians and Into the Spider-Verse, is credited as an illustrator on Casper, and future Illumination producer Janet Healy served as the visual effects producer on the movie when she was at ILM. Casper wound up becoming a decent-sized hit at the box office, although I first watched the movie on video, and as I said at the beginning, it was a VHS I watched often. I did have a fondness for Casper the Friendly Ghost, having always been familiar with his classic cartoons, and this was able to have a similar blend of humor, heart, and atmosphere as his early famous studio shorts. And because of the number of times I watched Casper on video, I also strongly associate the movie with this advertisement for Pepsi that played at the beginning of the cassette. Like I said, the film performed well at the box office, and Universal and Amblin got to work on making a sequel. However, that never happened for a couple of reasons. One setback was that after filming That Darn Cat, Christina Ricci decided she wanted to move away from family film roles. Another factor was that while Harvey Comics gave Universal the theatrical film rights to Casper, they retained the direct-to-video rights. Harvey would then partner with Saban Entertainment on 2 direct-to-video Casper movies, A Spirited Beginning and Casper Meets Wendy. I cannot imagine Universal was pleased about the existence of these other projects and having some other studio have partial rights to the character. A script was written for a theatrical sequel, and Simon Wells signed on to direct, but according to Wells, the studio grew concerned about the potential budget and scrapped it. So he went on to make The Time Machine instead, which, funnily enough, previously had Brad Silberling attached. Universal and Amblin did produce a follow-up animated series titled The Spooktacular New Adventures of Casper, which premiered on Fox Kids less than a year after the film's release. Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver even continued to serve as writers on the show. I remember very little of it though and cannot offer a fresh opinion. In 2001, Harvey Comics was purchased by Classic Media, which would later be bought by DreamWorks Animation. DWA is of course now owned by Universal, thus giving them all the rights to Casper the Friendly Ghost. They have not done much with the character though. He did appear in an episode of Harvey Girls Forever where he was voiced by Bobby Moynihan. The version of Casper from the 1995 movie was also used in a Geico commercial. In 2022, it was announced that a new live-action series was in development for Universal's Peacock streaming service, but there have not been any updates since then. But as for the movie that Brad Silberling directed, I think it still holds up as a solid family film with some endearing characters, a lot of heart, and groundbreaking visual effects from some of the best wizards in the film industry. See you next time.